Hey, what is up guys? It's Galaxy Tech Dark Lord here. I'm coming at you guys today with a new Infernity Xyz deck profile. So I've been testing it out a lot. I took the Synchro variant bit out of it because I realised that, well, I heard like pretty much after the ban list was announced, I went to a locals and I was talking to other people who also play Infernities who were a bit bummed about Barrier getting banned, but they told me that like not 5 days after that ban list was announced, that Infernities had just topped at a regionals. So they're definitely not dead. So I decided to go back to this build. It's still very strong. It's still very consistent. It still holds up a very good fight considering Infernities have been around for a very long time. So I will get straight into it. There will be no side deck because it's built purely on opinion, based on opinion, and what you come up against most commonly. So like at my locals, there's generally Fire Fist. There's a lot of Fire Fists and a lot of Bugians at the moment. So yeah. Anyway, so for the monster lineup, we run the standard things: 3 copies of Infernity Archfiend and 3 copies of Infernity Necromancer. It's just standard stuff really. Archfiend is the best searcher in the game as far as I'm concerned, and Necromancer is your once a turn monster reborn for any Infernity monsters, besides himself obviously. And he's also got a nice beefy 2000 defense, which is pretty good. Yeah, and then for the non-Infernities, because these are the only 3 actual Infernity monsters in the deck, we have 3 copies now of Stygian Street Patrol. I bumped it up to 3 because it is amazingly good for deck flow. 1 is not enough, 2 was okay, but 3 is great. You can never have too many of these, to be honest, because it's so vital for flowing the deck. If you've used a normal summon, or you don't want to use a normal summon yet, then you can use this, and generally if you have no cards in your hand, which is when you use it, you get the Archfiend out of your hand and then spring its effect because it's a special summon. So that's why it's there, and it has a nice effect. If it destroys a monster by battle, your opponent takes damage equal to its level times 200. So that aside, it's very good. Right, and then 2 copies of Summoner Monk because it just helps you get those level 4 monsters out quite easily. And you know, we have a fairly potent spell body in this deck as well. So, and then 1 copy of Archfiend Heiress because this searches out your Infernity Archfiends when it's sent to the graveyard by battle or by card effect. So Dark Grepher, Infernity Chain, you know, that sort of thing. That triggers its effect. Then 1 Armageddon Knight and 1 Dark Grepher for your deck flow into the graveyard. Dark Grepher, as an added bonus, gets a monster out of your hand that's dark, and Armageddon Knight is just when it's normal summon, you can dump a dark monster in the graveyard. So that's for the monsters. There's now 14 in this deck, as opposed to the previous builds that I've ran, which have had 13. Right, for the spells we have the standard Launcher, standard Reinforcement of the Army to get your Dark Grepher or Armageddon Knight to your hand. 1 Foolish Burial, generally for the Stygian or the Archfiend Heiress. And now a Book of Moon. I added this card in after I looked at, after I looked at the guy's deck, the guy who topped the Swedish regionals with Infernities. It's not a card that I generally run with it. It's pretty good though. The reason I generally didn't run it before was because it's a card that I hold instead of set most of the, like 3/4 of the time. But you can get it out your hand with a Summoner Monk if you don't want to use it now. Right, if you don't want to use it at that time, or you can just set it face down. You know, it's a very good card. Then I've gone back to 2 Upstart Goblin because, well, there wasn't any space for the third one. I didn't want to go over the 40 card bit barrier, and it thins your deck. It thins your deck by 2 cards for an extra 2,000 life points of your opponent, which will rapidly diminish. Then I've bumped the instant fusions up to 3 because it gives you it makes it a lot more consistently, a lot more of a consistent appearance, and you can, if you don't need it, you can get it out of your hand with Summon a Monk. Then finally, standard 3 copies of MST because it's just the most useful back row destroyer with no cost. Right, for the traps we have the standard 1 Infernity Barrier, 3 copies of Infernity Break. Now that Barrier is actually, like, basically, now that 2 barriers have been hit from the deck, Infernity Break has become a lot more useful for getting rid of cards. It can't negate their activation, but it's still a very useful card. So, then we run 3 copies of Fiendish Chain, because the deck doesn't suit Veil as well, because Veiler needs to be in the hand to work, so yeah. And then 2 copies of Dimensional Prison, and 2 copies of Mirror Force, standard stuff. Then 1 copy of Solemn Morning, 1 copy of Bottomless Trap Hole, and 1 copy of Compulsory Evacuation Device. Very useful card when dealing with things like Dracosac, or, you know, Battling Box Elite Yoke, as I have certain paranoia about them. It can also freeze your opponent out of normal summons for a turn. You could use Force Back instead. Like, there's a guy at my locals who uses Force Back, which is quite annoying. But if you don't want to use that and you don't have them, then Compulsory Evacuation Device is very good. And because it makes Synchros and XEs and Fusions a lot harder to recover because they go back to the extra deck. So that's the traps. Finally, for extras, you guys might be surprised at the fact that there is no Silent Honor Arc in this deck, or Exton Knight. That's because I can't afford them and I don't want to buy them. I'd rather trade them. They're too much, and I'm not going to pay that much for a card. So 2 copies of Lavalval Chain. The main go-to Xyz monster. It gets the deck flowing quite a bit. Usually use his Send to the Graveyard effect instead of his top deck effect, because I don't run Monster Gate in this anymore, or Transmod, or anything like that. None of the combo-based spell cards, because they take up space for more useful stuff. Then 2 copies of Diamond Direwolf, because this clears your field, and it can also help get your opponent's cards out of the way if you really want to. But mainly you're going to be using them on dead Lavalval Chains. Then 2 copies of Levia the Sea Dragon, because, you know, you can get a banished Stygian back and go into a rank 4, or you can get a Necromancer back or an Archfiend back if you've banished it with Break. Generally you're not going to, but, you know, and then it will set off Archfiend's effect. So, that's why that's in there. And it's just a staple Xyz monster with this deck. Then 1 copy of Digusto Emerald, because it just, it can just recycle cards. And then Thanatos, because this is in place of Silent Honor Arc. I would actually run it if I had one, but I'm not going to buy one, so that's where it stands. It's good enough as it is. It can, once a turn, it can, during either player's turn, it can actually make itself immune to other monster effects, so by using 1 Xyz material. So that's good enough for the time being. Then 1 copy of Maystroke, because it's Maystroke and it's a staple, rank 4. Then Black Ship of Khorne, because it just gets those monsters out of the way that can be a bit annoying, as long as they've got less attack points. Master Key Beetle, because it helps protect stuff, and it's just got a very nice, nice bulky 2500 attack point. Gagaga Cowboy, because it burns, and it also it has a pretty good attack effect as well. And then for the last Xyz I run a Papyri Operative, because it's just a really great card actually. Working in tandem with Maystroke can be quite funny. I generally wouldn't get this out at the same time as Maystroke, but you know. And then for the fusion, for the instant fusion targets, we have 1 Flame Ghost and 1 Camian Wizard, because I don't have Darkfire Dragon, but this works just as well because it's a level 4. Any level 4 and any level 3 will do. So that concludes the Infernity deck. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment and subscribe. Peace out.